Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Guyana's Oil and You. I am your hostess this evening, senior journalist of Kaieteur News, Kiana Wilburg. And this evening, we're going to have a very interactive session. It's going to be a little different. We have two members of our oil and gas team, the leader, the person who's at the helm. We have with us the publisher of Kaieteur News, Mr. Glenn Lau, and he is known for providing very pragmatic explanations on some of the complex issues in the oil and gas sector. So it's going to be a very interesting program here tonight. We'll be going through several issues from local content to field development costs to an assessment of the performance of the current and past regime on the oil and gas sector and its governance. Also joining us this evening will be another team member. His name is Kemal King. He's another senior journalist here, and he too has a program that is dedicated towards educating our nation on issues that are pertinent to understanding the oil and gas sector. Mr. Lau, thank you very much for being part of tonight's program. All right, so thank you very much. So you would have started your own show. It's called The Glenn Lau Show, Tell It Like It Is, and you brought the fight to the radio to speak to our Guyanese brothers and sisters on a number of issues, and you've been placing a lot of focus on the award of the Kaieteur and Kanji blocks. So while we will touch on that a little bit later in the program, I want to get an understanding of your assessment of the former regime. What was your expectation in terms of putting the right mechanisms in place for the proper governance of the oil sector? Where do you feel you've been disappointed the most?
That's a beautiful question. The former regime, I guess you'd be talking about, because we are new into this new government.
Yes.
I want to be very clear. You were talking about the coalition government.
Correct.
I had tremendous high hopes in them. I thought that they would have bring about a magnificent change to this land, taking into consideration the things they would have been saying prior to taking office. They were like there with the Kaieteur news of everything we would have exposed. The skullduggery, the scamfishness, the wholesale thievery, and everything. They were the first people on board to criticize all the deals that the PPP regime was doing. And honestly, I really wanted a change in this land. And when that change came about, and I saw that we weren't getting anywhere after a few mornings, and I was beginning to see that it's like we having an exchange from the PPP into the coalition. It breaks my heart. They really let me down. I had tremendous hopes with them. Ramjatan, Moses, Trotman, Patterson, Mr. Harmon, they have let down Guyana, in my view.
Okay. Now, I think one of the first issues that we started to have with the coalition, and I think it was a fight that not only Kaieteur News was part of, but other members of the media corps, was the release of the contract. I believe we had to bombard the readership with calls for the contract, the ExxonMobil contract, to be released. And I think it took us over a year to actually get that done. So were you surprised during that period? Were you seeing like the beginning of a government that was not open or 100% open to transparency?
At first, I gave them a chance to see where or which part of the fence they were sitting. And we, like you said, the releases of information being transparent, I really, and we all together fought to bring about transparency in this country. It came a little with them. The most important thing that I remember, and I always talk about it, that I have to give ex-President Granger kudos for. He, after constant bombardment, asking questions about releasing the oil contract, when he released that Exxon contract, it was like a relief to this country. And I said a relief to this country because hadn't David Granger released that contract, Guyana would have been walking blind in this world as to what is taking place and what will take place with and in the oil industry. So I really give him kudos for that one thing. I kept telling people, if there isn't one thing that I can say that I'm proud of with David Granger, is releasing that contract.
Okay. Now, we're on the contract. Let's get into just one and two of the provisions in the contract that I know Kaieteur News would have been at the forefront of trying to get the people to understand how much is it we actually lost, what we deserve, and the fact that we should move towards renegotiation. Now, if you can just explain for the people, I know that you're very famous for your pragmatic explanations. Just simply, what is it Guyana is getting with the royalty and the 50-50 split of the profit oil?
The first thing came out between Exxon and Guyana was the signing bonus. You and I know, Kim all know, that had we negotiated properly, we could have gotten a lot more, taking into consideration the oil fine in the Starbuck block. That has gone. There isn't much we can do about that. But let's talk about the contract itself and what is there. What is there in Exxon for Guyana? The administration had gave us a 1%, and Trotman asked for 2%. I don't know how on earth finding that kind of fine, you asking for 2%. It is important to note that 1%, according to the industry norm, it's at the time when the PPP signed in 1999 and accepted 1%. That was the way they do business in the oil industry. That's how they did it all over the world. Because remember, when they come to your country and they're not certain, they're prospecting, they're looking, they're searching, right? So they come to you and they say, hey, I think your backyard has oil. And you have nothing to lose. So you said, okay, what is there for me? And they tell you, well, you know what? The normal thing is that we will come, we'll bring in, set up our equipment, and we will dig. And if we don't get anything, we walk away free. You don't have to pay us anything. And that's pretty fair. But if we find, we can settle, we can give you a 1%. And this is how we do it. You either accept us or you tell us to leave. And at the time, Guyana, I think Guyana had nothing to lose because our economy was down, their gold price was down, nothing was there to keep us kicking and getting a better life. So we signed on to the 1%. And there we go, the bucket kick. And we realized when they announced oil fine, that, you know what, the 1% deal or that type of arrangement used to happen decades ago, 100 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. But in today's world, because things are so different, and let me explain when I say different, yesterday's world. Yesterday's world, the technology wasn't there as to today. Yesterday's world would have taken them many moons to find, and they would have had to expend millions of US dollars to find. But in today's world, the technology has moved forward. It's like today you don't have to go drill 2,000 feet to know if gold is there. You walk with a machine on top of the land and you say gold is here. Well, it's something similar to that in today's world in the oil industry. So when we realized that, we had the right to say, Exxon, come on, you can't just come and talk to us like that. You find a lot of oil. Let's sit down, let's negotiate. It's a lot, right? And you shouldn't be grabbing up all the same way you grab up, or we shouldn't have the same type of contract that you guys used to deal with countries 100 years ago. It's different today. You didn't spend the kind of money you used to spend to find it, and it's very easy today. Instead of a country negotiate a proper deal, one that would have put Guyana already, Guyanese, on a decent foot, meaning we didn't have to beg in the streets, or like one guy said yesterday, you didn't have to run and hide from courts. Money should have already been coming here to us in our pockets. And had they, and I'm not saying they didn't do it, but had they looked at other nations in which the royalty, instead of 1%, is within the range of 5 and 30%, it's common sense to say, hey, why are you still giving me 1? And why should I ask for 2? You know? So the bargaining skill or principle weren't there that could have brought Exxon and said, listen, guys, you got to give me at least 20% royalty. But I don't know what went wrong, and I don't want to blame anybody, but it's terrible to accept that. As for your next question was?
The question that I was asking about what is in the package for Guyana. What's Guyana getting? What's their take? So you spoke about the 2% royalty. Mm-hmm. And now
Good.
There's the aspect of the 50-50.
Right. All right. We accepted, well, the 2% royalty, and then they throw in 50-50 profit sharing. Mm-hmm. This profit sharing, Kiana, I don't know, but later I get to understand that business, not everybody understands that. This 50-50 profit sharing is for fools, for a stupid individual. Any person who accepts profit sharing is a moron. But the reason why they put 50-50 profit sharing is to make you look good. It's like, let me say, Kiana, I'm going to give you a small salary. I'm going to give you, let's use a figure, $100,000 a month. But I'll share the profit in Kaieteur News with you, 50-50. And you say, oh, yeah, say yes, girl. At the end of the year, every single cent profit Kaieteur News make, half will be for you. And when you don't understand business, the way how the world is run, you would get conned you would regret the day that you ever enter into a 50-50 profit sharing business. You would say, oh my God, why didn't I take my full salary? Why I say that, it is because I can fix the books at the end of the year to show no profit, to show that the company has a debt. And you walk in and say, oh my God, wait, the company lose? I say, yes, the company lose. The company didn't lose. It's just that I've been thieving the money without you knowing it. You understand? This is why smart countries, some of the countries in this world, with the exception of the many that I would have spoken about last night on the program, they don't settle for profit sharing. They say, give me my damn royalty right away. I don't care about profit sharing.
Very high royalty.
Profit sharing, like I said, is for food. How do you? It's like what we are going through right now. It is unthinkable. It is unimaginable. It is unbelievable. Profit sharing is where you, who's getting your 50% in this company, you have to be able to have a say in how this business is run. You must be able to know how much newsprint Kaieteur News buy. You must be able to know how much I pay per ton for newsprint. You must be able to know how much ink I buy and what price I buy and from whom I buy. Meaning you must know every single thing. You must know how much paper sell. You must know how much damage. You must know how much return. You must know how much ads come in. You must know everything about the business. And you must, and this is important, you must have a say in the spending. Now, I can tell you that I buy newsprint for $1,200 when newsprint is $500. So every ton of newsprint, I rip you off, bang, $700 US. So at the end of the day, when I fix the book that way, you have nothing to get. And this is what Guyana is faced with ExxonMobil at the moment. And not for now, but for the rest of our lives once they're here. And it's very frightening. It is frightening. It is frightening to see the first thing they threw at us before 2015 was $450 million pre-contract cost. You understand what I'm saying, dear guys? That pre-contract cost, what they gave us, they said that is what they spend. That's what they spend in the seismic surveys and blah, 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 and what they're flying, how much they fly to Guyana, how much hotel they stay, how much they pay the hotel, what they do, if they fare, whatever, anything, whatever they do. That adds up to $460 million before 2015. Guyana had no say. We weren't able to say, guys, how you arrive at that? But we have to pay it. You got to understand, we have to pay it. That's the arrangement we agreed to. But we agreed to audit. And you can talk, or Kimal can talk about the audit part of this. I can speak a lifetime on these things. But at the end of the day, we have to audit it. That is what we have begun to audit. Just the pre-contract cost of $450 million. By 2016 or 17, that pre-contract cost went up to almost $1 billion US, to which Guyana had no say but to audit it. How do when will we can audit $1 billion Guyana properly in this country, and we are thrown $1 billion US pre-contract cost by ExxonMobil. President Jagdeo said, Vice President Jagdeo said in his press conference that he's doing things in a sequential manner, right? And we already start the audit on the pre-contract cost. That might not finish, and our oil will finish. And you have to also understand what we sign on to and what Exxon did to us. What it did to us with the same cost, pre-contract cost. They did business. They're doing business with countries that we can't verify half of the bills they threw at us. What that means, in layman terms, Glenlal buy newsprint from Gibraltar, and I come and I give the government a bill for $3,000. The government of Guyana cannot go to Gibraltar and say, Gibraltar, Glenlal purchased some newsprint from you. Could you verify the price? Gibraltar tell Guyana, go shove whatever Glenlal give you and you better accept that. We don't share information. That's the kind of skullduggery. That's the kind of that's the way. That's the way. When you set about to cheat your partner, that's how you do things. I go and I buy something from my brother, and I tell my brother, don't say nothing, right? So me come and tell you, Kiana, me buy newsprint for $1,200, but me buy it from my brother. You got to my brother said, no, I can't tell you that. In short, me only buy the thing for $500 from my brother, but he can't tell you that, so you can't verify anything. So when you can't verify a bill that comes to you, what you have to do? You have to accept it.
Yes.
You have to very well goddamn pay it. And that's the kind of dilemma this country finds itself in with Exxon. And that's not even nothing. I ain't going to even go touch on field development cost and FPSOs, and no, I don't want to even go there yet. that sends me into a different mind frame when I put my thoughts together on that. So the pre-contract cost alone on when we talk about 50-50 profit sharing, you are out of your mind. That's pre-contract cost. Let's talk about the oil. If I bring up 100 barrel of oil per day, let's use mango as in oil.
Okay.
Okay? We use mango. Simplify it so people understand. I am picking mangoes, and the mangoes I am picking comes with a cost to pick it. You understand what I'm saying?
Clearly.
It comes with a cost to pick it. I have 50 men working with me, picking mangoes. And you're sitting out there, I pick the mango, I sell the mango. When I sell the mango, me and you have to share the profit. But I pick the mango, I sell the mango for $50. And when I check the expenses, this is very important. When I give you the expenses, I give you $49.50. We barely make 50 cents profit. What would you say? The first thing you want to ask me, Glenlal, buddy, is how you arrive at $49.50. I can tell you, Kiana, Kimal, I had 50 employees. I had to pay them salary. I got to fly them here in. I got to pay the transportation for go work. I got to pay the machine for pick up for they use to pick it. I got to pay transportation. I got to pay the man for carry it to the market.
I got to pay the man for sell it. Somebody man go spoil, right? I sell it for this, but this is all we get, 50 cents. Now, would you want to do business with me? Would you continue doing business with me when you see nothing coming in? Well, this is exactly what countries did. But they didn't do that. Countries didn't do it. They didn't do it and do it right. They do it because your leaders, everything falls back to our leaders. If our leaders is in bed with them, then you basically have nothing. They would rub hand in hand, and the people starve. Just which night I was talking about in I think it's Tanzania, where a landslide caused by Exxon that killed 12 people, destroyed the village, and these people refused to even render assistance to the living, much as the dead. And guess what the government and the company come up together and tell the country that incident was an act of God. Come on, you gotta be a moron. So this is the kind of a game plan. If you don't get your leaders on board to fight for you, we are in trouble. Good. Next, go ahead.
Thank you.
Kemal.
Thank you very much for that. So, Kemal, the question that was posed to Mr. Lau, what we're examining now, an assessment of the performance of the past government, the APNU-EFC coalition, and what, for you, is one thing or perhaps a few things that you found to be most disappointing? What were your expectations of the former regime and versus what they actually did?
Okay. One of the first things I expected when this government took office was that it would be a little more transparent, because
The APNU?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, the APNU-FC government. And this was something that they staunchly criticized the pre-2015
Yes.
PPP governments about. But then you see that it took over a year to release the Exxon contract after many, many calls. Then it also took a while to release the signing bonus. And then over those 5 years that the government is in operation, and even now, you still find every day that Kaieteur News is publishing some report on what the APNU-AFC government would have done and that they didn't tell us about. So that was really the most disappointing thing for me. And I also want to comment on something Mr. Lal said about the former President David Granger. He had been asked, and I think my publisher spoke about this recently too, about what he thought of ExxonMobil and whether they would involve themselves in murky deals. And he had said that he doesn't think that ExxonMobil would stoop to that level, that it would allow itself to be embroiled in those kind of scandals. And I suppose what I would say to the former president is just simply to look at the precedents that this specific oil major has set. ExxonMobil is not a stranger to bribery and corruption scandals, and our reporting has shown that.
Perfect.
They also say that ExxonMobil is one of the best stewards of safety in the oil industry. You can also look to precedents set by that oil company. The oil company has been responsible for oil spills and other environmental infractions.
And some of the worst.
Also, yeah, some of the worst man-made environmental disasters. It has also been involved in many malfunctions at its operations that would have led to the endangerment of its workers. So there is every single angle that you can look at this, that you can worry. You can look at ExxonMobil's history to dispel any idea that our politicians would have that this company is clean and safe and free of risk. It's not.
Okay. So, Kimal, I'd just like to add to that. You know, when you spoke about the signing bonus, it reminded me of a very uh, shocking story or a shocking revelation during my reporting when there was all of this news when Christopher Ram first wrote about the signing bonus that the government collected it quietly. Many reporters were trying to get an understanding of whether this was really so because there wasn't any documentation, there wasn't any gazetted information about it. And then one of our reporters approached the former Minister of Finance, Winston Jordan,
Correct.
and he was asked, "Sir, do you know anything about a 20 million signing bonus?" And his answer was no. Then the information came out that he actually knew about it. And when he was challenged in Parliament about it, his response was, "You asked me about a 20 million signing bonus. If he'd asked me about an 18 million signing bonus, my answer would have been different." And to me, when I heard that, it was very telling about the kind of leaders that we have signing and negotiating our deals and the kind of people we have looking out for our interests.
Beautiful.
So if I cannot depend on you to say, "No, Kiana, it's not a 20 million signing bonus. It's an 18 million signing bonus that we signed. And this is what it was for. And this is why we did it. And this is when the negotiation took place, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." If we can depend on our leaders to tell us about a signing bonus, then you definitely can't depend on them to do things that are in your interest, to negotiate deals that are in your interest. So for me, that was one of the most troubling revelations during the time of the APNU. Mr. Lal, I know you wanted to jump in right
Yes, yes, yes. I made a note with my pen here. I was about to speak that same story. The way in which Winston Jordan came off, it tells deep of the person you are dealing with. Because if he had the nerve to tell her to say, "Well, you didn't ask me about the 18 million, you asked me about 20 million signing bonus. Had you asked me about the 18, I would answer that." It tells what type of human beings we were dealing with, what type of leaders we are dealing with. And I recall Carl Greenwich too. Carl Greenwich knew exactly and kept his mouth shut. But at the end of it all, I still want to say kudos to David Granger too. Because Mr. Granger came out and said, "You know what? I'll take the blame. It was my role. I made that decision to keep it secret." But honestly, in my heart, I never spoke to him about it. I think he didn't know about it. It was placed in an account. It was placed there for a specific reason. And read through the line and you will know. I believe that Mr. Granger did not know. I think it came over as a shock to him that they collected it and secretly threw it in an account and hide it from the nation.
With all the Kaieteur News would have reported on the ExxonMobil deal, and even the Global Witness, the damning Global Witness report called Signed Away, which spoke about the negotiations and what former Minister of Natural Resources, Raphael Trotman, would have known and probably did not take the time to know before entering to the deal. Do you believe that an investigation is definitely needed to find out who really sold out Guyana?
An investigation, Kiana, is mild to put it. I don't think you need an investigation to what has taken place in Guyana. People should have been in jail by now. With the little that we know, what transpired in these deals and oil blocks, people should have been in jail by now without even an investigation. You should just call them and ask them to explain and put them in jail. Yeah.
So one of the other issues that Kaieteur News would have been fighting for was the renegotiation of the Guyana ExxonMobil PSA for the Stabroek block. And I don't know, we've written almost or over 100 stories on that or more. And we have not seemed to lit a fire under our leaders, some of who are now saying that Guyana should have gotten a better deal, some members of the AFC, the Alliance for Change, but we seem to have not gotten anywhere on the call for renegotiation. Why do you think that is?
You know, Kiana, if, like I said, when you look back at countries, oil producing countries, countries that produced oil, and what happened there with them, it led to one thing: massive corruption. Massive corruption. Corruption leads to nothing. You get nothing. In this day and age we live, Kiana, I go on the computer and I just want to know anything. You just go Google and bang. You get the information. You don't have to take a plane to fly to Israel, or it's there. Okay? So it's not that I would say they didn't know. They knew. All of our leaders knew. Hence, we are in this position. But if the people of the country had known, including myself, including you, and Kimal, had we knew what we know today, it would have never happened. Because the first one would have been in the forefront, exposing it. But it took us a while to learn. And like a friend told me, this oil business is, you can't learn it in a day, you can't learn it in a year. It takes you 30, 40 years to learn. And by the time you learn, you realize you in handcuffs, you in chain cuffs, you are chained to a stone wall. They're done with you. And I thank God that He gave us that spirit, that wisdom to spot these things in this day and age, meaning the startup of our oil sector, so that we're beginning to spot and throw out and throw it there. What we have to stay behind now is keep on our leaders, that they adhere, that they listen and make those changes. We have been writing so much, we have been speaking so much of the illegality, the bad deals, the transactions, and I don't know where we were heading or where we're getting, because I'm not hearing the kind of wake up Guyana that I want to hear. Hence, I decided to come on this radio and let's talk about it, because we're writing every day. It goes through, it goes down some people's ears and say, "Oh, okay, it will die tomorrow." The next one, yeah, that will die tomorrow, and it has been a culture. It has become a culture in this nation. You write a big story, expose a corruption, this minister's son involved. Oh, 1 week after, Jagdev himself said that. This is a 7-day wonder. It disappears after 7 years. Well, I want Jagdev to know. I want the leaders to know, in the AFC, the PPP, and the PNC, that this is one that will never be a 7-day wonder. Not this oil wealth that can make every citizen of this land into millionaires. Never would I sit back and allow it. It's not going to go away. I have pledged to my staff, to you and to you, that every day of this newspaper must have an oil story. And that should be the lead story too. so that we can educate the nation. That's why I come on the radio to speak to people. I want to tell you in simple layman terms what is happening.
Okay. So, Kimal, I'll turn the question to you as well. What is your take on having an independent investigation into finding out who was the individual or individuals behind this controversial sellout of Guyana via the ExxonMobil deal?
Well, I think we had such an investigation. I'm not sure if you'd want to count that, what Global Witness did. And Global Witness has already revealed quite a lot that the public can look into to tell them what happened with the deal. The former Minister of Natural Resources, Raphael Trotman, went on a lavish, all-expense Exxon-paid trip to ExxonMobil's Houston headquarters, and there he signed this deal in no time. And what was one of the most daunting things to me was that Mr. Trotman, he received expert advice on multiple occasions, which informed him that he should have waited, that he could have gotten more information that would have allowed him the leverage to ask for more.
Beautiful.
So as far as getting an information done, yes, I am sure that having an independent forensic firm come to Guyana and tell us what happened would help, but I think we already have enough in the public to take action, and it's just that we need leaders with the political will to take action to get back the value that we lost.
What Kimal said there, put it very beautiful. He said in layman's term, Trotman had the opportunity. The people said, hold a few days more. The people send the information to him and say, listen, this is what you should ask for. This is what you have there. This is what you can get. Hold a couple days more information coming, so that you can take that to the negotiating table. Instead, the man just disregard all the recommendations and all the information that came and sign over.
So it's tantamount to saying that you have a house to sell, or if I have a home to sell, and I make contact with a real estate agent, and the person is saying, listen, Kiana, I'm going to do some evaluations for you. I'm going to get some other people to come in and do some checks, and when I get this information, I'll be able to bring it to you so that you can ask for a better price.
Beautiful.
I don't wait on that information.
Yeah.
I just go and I sell this piece of property for way, 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 way less.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Now, who does things like that?
I don't think any sensible person would do something like that.
So
I
are
would
you
never do
saying-
something like that.
So are you saying that we had a minister with no brain?
Well, you know,
Or
one
are
of
you
our...
saying that they were so hungry that they decide to take whatever come and just sign on to it? Nobody does things like that. This is the people's wealth, Kiana.
Correct.
This is our wealth, Kimal. And this is how these people treated us. No way. No way should we buy that. Something's wrong. Read through the lines.
Indeed. So now that we have taken a look at what occurred during the APNU AFC time, I'd like to turn our attention now to the People's Progressive Party. They came into office recently, marked 100 days of being in power. Mr. Lal, what's your assessment of the performance of the People's Progressive Party as it relates to managing the oil sector? What were your expectations? What do you think they should have done? And where are you disappointed the most?
Honestly, Kiana, with the PPP and expectation in the oil, I wasn't expecting much. because the information we would have put out there showed clearly that they were party and parcel of everything that that the coalition government went in there and meet.
Why would you say that? Give me an example.
The deals. The same way Trotman had the opportunity to move 1% and take it to 2%. The same option was there with the PPP when Exxon announced the find of oil. They knew that the Exxon found oil. They should have done the same thing. Don't give away the oil blocks. Put it in the open market. Put it for tender. Go find out. The same way how you ask the real estate man to come give you a price on your house. The same way, call in the oil people and say, listen, guys, I have this block here. It has oil. Talk to us. But instead, they did even worse than what Trotman did. They gave away the 2 blocks to people who have no experience for free. The people in turn take the blocks, put them in the open market, they're selling it for millions, if not billions, and we still left with our mouth white. So there isn't much there in me that I can say, you know what, I am hoping that these guys can come back and make some changes. Hence I say no, unless we enlighten the people, unless we tell the people what all our leaders have done and why they are still silent, we will not get a change. So I'm not hoping for anything.
I think you would have also mentioned there in the past when we've had our discussions about these matters that one of the golden opportunities the People's Progressive Party had to show that it is going to be different from the former perceptions that were held about it was the use of the Payara Field Development Plan when they were required to go through that plan and provide an approval for it. I think there was much that was said about using that opportunity to say, well, hey, Exxon, if you want this approval to move ahead with your 3rd project in the Stabroek block, well, then let's go back to the table and let's get a better deal. I think you would have mentioned that before, that
Kiana,
they missed a golden opportunity there.
Guyana Field Development Plan is taking it a bit high. You don't want to confuse people. It's a lovely question. People should know about it. But the Field Development Plan permits. What happened? Let me put it this way. The Lisa 1 well, they drill, give us a bill for 3.5
billion.
5 billion, 3.5. Did we question it? No, nobody questioned that. That's like the pre-contract cost. Nobody questioned that. We auditing that now. You need to know people, you need to know Guyana, that the different projects as they go ahead must be approved by our sitting government. So Lisa 1 would have been approved. They hand us a bill for it in the billions. We have no say about that. Lisa 2 came on board. There was a big fight on that, whether to grant them or not to grant them. However, they were granted. They also had us a bill for
Payar?
No,
Lisa
the
2.
Lisa
Lisa
2
2.
development cost.
Between Lisa 1 and Lisa 2,
Yeah, that was another
it came up to about $8 billion US dollars. You need to understand 8 billion US dollars for Lisa 1 and Lisa 2, to which the sitting government has to approve. They approve it. I think they had no say. And after we realized that we are getting conned, we are falling for every step of the game so easily, not knowing that, you know what, we can hold back them. We can put a check on them and say, hey, Exxon, you're moving too fast. And hold them at bay and say, listen, you can't move so fast. However, if you want to move fast, we can talk, you know. We can sit down and talk.
Mm-hmm.
We can say, man, you know that 2% why you give me? Why you give Guyana? No, man. If you want to move fast, talk to me. Come on the table. I'm going to allow you. I'm going to grant you the permit. But let's talk, no, man. You hit me with a bad deal already. And you know money is there for you. You know that you sell out and you give away everywhere else in the world for come here. You come here because the food is cheap. The oil is cheap. So you can make big money on it. But what about me? What about us? What about Guyana? Let's talk. Let's use the permit. Let's use the permit. And experts would have said that to us.
Mm-hmm.
Experts said, listen, you have Guyana. You have Guyana, you have Exxon by the balls. Let's hold the permit on the third well, which is Payara.
Correct.
And say, you know what? Exxon, come back to the goddamn table, let's talk. But instead, they hold them at bay. What they did? They sign off and tell the people go ahead. And I want you to know, people, I want you to hear this, Guyana, that there are several more wells to come on board.
Correct.
That we can use that as a leverage to say, no, Exxon, you can't do this. You got to come better. You got to come better. I got some simple, nice terms when we have our editorial meetings that I share with my staff. But because they're my staff and we are colleagues together, I can share it with them. But I would have loved to share it with you, Guyana. It's like you get conned the first time with your man. You get conned the second time. And you're the sugar cake fee. The third time, what you going to do? You're going to say, boy, if me is the sugar cake, you'll come better than that. Next.
I
Kim,
would like
what's
to
your take?
Offer an input.
Yes, go ahead.
You asked about what we think about the PPP's performance in its
Yes.
first 100 days in office. I actually jotted down a few points when you asked
Go
that
ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
And first of all, we cannot divorce the PPP's first 100 days performance from its pre-2015 work, because as they came into office and while they were in opposition, they essentially endorsed the actions of that government when it gave away the Kaieteur and Kanchi blocks.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And the vice president has also given his personal endorsement of the two key players in the giveaway of the blocks.
Correct.
They have rehired Robert Prasad, the former Minister of Natural Resources, as Foreign Secretary, and that's a very key post
Yes,
in
it
the
is.
Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The vice president has also said that from his personal relationship with the former president Donald Ramotar, he is pretty sure that nothing
No corruption
untoward
took
happened
place.
there.
Yes.
On the Stabroek block deal, the PPP has criticized the Granger government a lot about its handling of the deal.
Correct.
And I'm sure that gets them a lot of political mileage. But what good is your criticism if you're going to come into office and leave it as is?
Beautiful.
They've said that they're not going to do anything about the deal. And Kaieteur News has written how experts have advised Guyana that it should use Payara as leverage And again, one of the things the PPP did was that it criticized the APNU government for approving oil production at Liza 1 and Liza 2 before Guyana could be ready. And one of the first things they did when they came into office is they approved the Payara project very quickly. And we also published advice from experts that said proper reviews of these kinds of projects, it requires an entire team of people who are qualified to review these kind of projects.
Mhm.
And they did not take that advice. They approved it very quickly. And one of the things that ExxonMobil said to the public when it sought to, I'd say, pressure Guyana to approve the deal very quickly is that Guyana would lose billions of dollars if it waited. And the vice president fell for that because he had held a press conference during which he said that it would take a fool to think that the Payara project could be used as leverage to renegotiate the whole deal. And his explanation for that was that we are in a period of global economic downturn because of the coronavirus pandemic, and that assets are being sold away left, right, and center, and that Guyana doesn't want to be a part of that. Let me tell you something. We have at least 9 billion barrels out there. There is not a single oil company that is not looking in Guyana's direction, that doesn't want to be here. ExxonMobil, who has the rights and control over 9 billion barrels of oil, is not going anywhere. And lastly, I'm going to speak to the vice president's comments that he made during his last press conference last week. We asked him about the depletion policy. That's one of the things that the former government had committed to doing, but this government seems to be walking back on. And we have shown, I think it was Dr. Yan Mangal who said that one of the things oil companies like to do is to influence governments to produce the oil as quickly as possible. And one of the reasons they do that is that they can get away with terms that are crappy. So the government does not have the time it needs to build its capacity to keep up with the company. And so the company gets to produce so much oil with bad terms. And it seems that this government has fallen for that because it wants to allow the companies to produce oil as quickly as possible.
You know?
Thank you very much. Those were some insightful comments there,
Yes,
Kimal.
yes. Well said. Kimal talk about them not waiting and get proper advice. Now, Payara, like he said, should have been the bargaining chip. Instead, they run about and say, we have to give the people them. We have to give the people them. It's like you selling your house and your neighbor tell you, don't take what Kimal tell you. Don't sell for a price. Go and find out, check around and get the best price. And you run and say, no. I'm selling, I'm going with that. You know? And this argument that they talk about ExxonMobil sell out here and sell out all over and focusing here, Kimal, that's a very simple, easy thing for people to understand. And I think Jagdeo, I think all the PPP and the PNC and the AFC, if they don't understand that, well then there's no other word to describe them but fools. Because if I have 10 restaurants across this world and I supplying 100 food per day to the market in Trinidad, and all over the world the 10 restaurants is costing me $1,000 per plate. 100 plate is $100,000 that I have to supply every day to Trinidad. It's no different with the oil industry. These people have a market. They already have a demand. They have a quota to which they have to supply. And it's like the restaurant. You're producing 100 food to which you're selling to Trinidad from 10 countries. But you come and you find Guyana. And Guyana can produce the food for $200. What do you do with those countries? You truck them and you stick with Guyana. Once Guyana could produce the 100 food per day, you stick with Guyana because Guyana is $200 a day at a plate. So it's big profit here. So, but I tell people, you can come and tell, Guyana, a sell out here and a sell out there. You don't sell out there because you want to sell out. You sell out there because you can't, the price you get in here, you can't match it. So you have to sell out.
Right.
It's like if you use a bottling plant, for example, you use Banks DIH or DDL, and they're bottling beers in Trinidad for $50, and in Barbados $60, and in Suriname $53, and you come to Guyana, and you can produce a bottle beer for 20 cents. Do you want to keep them there?
Of course not.
Come on, no. Only a moron would keep them. And that is the argument they bring and give our leaders. And Jack Deere say, well, the people in sell out there, they sell out there. Come on, no. Go back to school, Jack Deere. Yeah.
And just to buttress that point.
You see, these kind of, one second, these are the type of things that irks me, man. The kind of flimsy things, the nonsensical answers that come out of these people's mouth. Every day I listen to our political leaders, it upsets me. Every day I listen to them speak. Because nothing comes over with that is logical. Nothing. Yes, continue.
Yes, Kimo, go ahead.
Yeah, in support of what Mr. Law was saying, recently Hess, who is one of the co-owners of the Stabroek block, along with Exxon, decided to sell out one of its producing fields in the Gulf of Mexico for Guyana. It sold out this producing field to get in excess of $500 million.
To come here.
And where did it say it was going to plug that money?
Guyana.
Into Guyana. And another one of the things that Hess's chief financial officer said during their most recent earnings call was that Guyana's fields gives them some of the best, lowest rates in the industry. As a matter of fact, what he said about Liza Phase 2 was that it's arguably the best project in the industry. So there's not a chance that Exxon or Hess or CNOOC is going anywhere. There's nothing that can compete with what's in Guyana.
What Guyana needs to know, there's a lot more. This oil business with these oil companies is deeper than what we even think. But we will continue to dig and we will continue to unearth. And as we unearth the skullduggery and find the crookishness in the sector, we will let you know. Day by day, we will let you know. Hour by hour, we'll give you the information as we unearth them.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Lau. To our listeners, I'm sure that you would have found this session to be quite interesting, quite insightful. And I want to thank my two panelists, my two colleagues, and my boss, Mr. Lau, for being part of the program. The reason why I've brought these two individuals to be part of tonight's program is because we want to give you interesting views and an insight into the work that's going on at Kaieteur News, the people who are behind it, and to give you a more pragmatic explanation. And this is something that we're going to keep doing because at Kaieteur News, at Kaieteur Radio, our perspective and our objective is to ensure that the nation understands what is going on with its wealth, and we want to give you the the most powerful tool that you can have, which is the knowledge about the industry so that you can hold your leaders accountable. I want to say again, thank you for joining us for this 1 hour program. We went over a little bit, but I know that you can forgive us for that. So once again, thank you for joining us. And please look out tomorrow evening, 7:30. You will be hearing from Mr. Lal himself on the Glenn Lal Show. Tell it like it is. It's going to be a fiery program, so you wouldn't want to miss it. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And thank you again, Kimal and Mr. Lal, for being part of the program.
Thank you. Thank you, Kiana.